everyone, I'm Heather. I'm back for a really quick tag. This one has to really be quick because I have food in the oven and I'm basically eating vegan pasta salad straight from the serving bowl that I've made it in. So if I'm up here too long, I'm just going to end up eating this whole thing, and then what's the point of putting it in a serving bowl? Anyway, this one is the summer school readathon tag. Done by Doris at Aldi Books, and I'll link her thing below. But it's sort of a tie-in to the summer school readathon, which I am doing at the minute. I'm doing badly. I'm only on my first book, but it goes for the whole month of July, so I should just, calm down and not be so anxious about little things. But anyway, so the first question is to do with like the first prompt of the readathon, which is language arts. So the idea is you read a book to do with each of these subjects in school. That's the readathon. So for the tag, it's sort of based on those categories as well. And the question that goes with language arts is to tell us about a book you were assigned in school. Go. Go. And one that I thought of was this one that I still have in my house. I don't know why. It can't be the original book that I read in school. I don't know why else I would have it though, and it's The Poisonwood Bible by Barbara Kingsolver. And that one, I think I read for AP English or advanced literature or some crazy thing, and we had to read it, I think, over the summer. When I was a kid, that was the height of sacrilege. You're giving us summer homework. But I did sort of find that it went quite quickly, and it was something to do when I was bored in the summer, so I would never, 16-year-old me would never admit that it was a good idea, but So I was assigned this book and didn't really like it at the when it was assigned to me, but as sort of time has gone on and I've thought about it more and more, it was a really, really good book and I really like it, and it's sort of risen to one of my favorite books, really. It's about this family, this ministerial family, sort of a Baptist Christian family, that go to Africa, I think in the 60s or something, I'm not sure, but it's not now, it's quite a bit of time ago. They've gone on this mission trip to spread the word of Christ to Africa. And the dad is quite zealous, in quite a bad way. He's not just feeling quite strongly about how he wants Christianity to spread in Africa. He's a bit he wants his particular brand of life and opinions and everything to spread everywhere, and he's trying to plant this American type garden in Africa, and it's not growing because he's not thinking about who Africans are or what Africa is and how it's different and how that's good. He's just thinking about these sort of zealous ideas about spreading his particular everything to everywhere. And he comes with a bunch of daughters and a wife, and it's told in their voices. Each chapter is one kid and then another kid, and one kid has quite a significant disability, some sort of spine problem or something like this, that affects her. Anyway, and I love Barbara Kingsolver. I've read loads of her books because I really like her, and this was the first of her books that I read, and I was forced to read it. So thank you, Mrs. Chance at St. Mary's High School in Colorado Springs. It was a very, very good idea to make me read this book. Okay, so the second question is to do with math. So you're supposed to name a book that has characters that need math. Those people are what am I going to need this for in real life? And to be honest, I haven't ever needed calculus, but that's just because I haven't chosen a math career. Loads of people, architects and such, I suppose, do pick careers that need math. So anyway, I'm gonna go with Naturally Tan by Tan France, and I don't have this book here because I got it from the library, so I'll just put it up. But this is Tan France. He is on Queer Eye on Netflix. If you haven't seen it, watch it. It's so amazing. And Naturally Tan is his memoir, where he sort of writes about how he came into business and how he came to be such a bigwig. He sort of started with a fashion line, and one of his things was in Utah, where he started with a modest swimsuit line for Mormon women there, and it turned out that it was really popular with people, not just with Mormons, but with sort of people who don't feel, you know, that their bodies are like, you know, the best beach bodies or whatever, and they feel a bit self-conscious and they want like a really vintagey sort of look, you know, like 1950s, like full suits and full butts and everything like that. And it sort of like really caught on. But he had this problem where people were like knocking off his line. So he was selling his for quite a lot of money because they were like couture, basically, like he was making them. And other people were sort of like, you know, doing different materials and blah, 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 and selling them for cheaper. So he decided, sort of stop that, or to like capitalize from that, he decided to knock off himself. Like, he made a knockoff version of his stuff as well and made it his own company, you know? So we had like his original like fashion company that was really popular, and then also his own knockoff company of that, selling like cheaper like stuff. Anyway, he's obviously quite a brilliant business sort of guy and like a business mind, which requires a lot of like, you know, math and sort of, you know, accountancy and sort of buying know-how and stuff like that. Like, I'm so bad at math and business, like I can't even tell you, so I can't even explain what it is about his like math stuff that's really good. I'm just gonna throw him out there as like a, you need math. Okay, so the next one is science. We were supposed to say the last book you read that was like science related. And I was going through my list, right? Like, I was like, okay, not that one, 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 not that one. I got all the way down to next, like, last year. Like, in this whole year, I could not find a single science book I'd read. And then I was, like, through halfway, like, through last year as well, and still couldn't find anything. And I was like, this is obviously something I don't really do. Mainly because I don't really like science. So, I'm just gonna have to broaden my definition of science and include things like Mudlark by Laura Maitland. So this one was really good. It's about this woman who like mudlarks on the Thames. So she like goes on the Thames foreshore and like finds bits of stuff that are left over, you know, different artifacts, and some of the stuff she's found was crazy. Like, she's found Roman stuff, you know, Tudor stuff. She's found like shoes that are obviously from like the 17th century and stuff like that, and like buckles and all this crazy sort of stuff. And it sort of introduced her to history she didn't even know anything about. Like, she'll find something and she'll be like, oh well, this is, you know, really interesting, and she'll ask a couple experts about it, and then they'll be like, oh yeah, this is from so and so period of time when people did so and so, and she's like, people did that, you know? It's so interesting. And in my mind, I would have put that in the category of history. However, it does take quite a bit of science to be a mudlark. One, in that she's got to follow the tides and calculate like where she'll be in relation to various tides on the shore and stuff like that. She's got to like do calculations to do with like what pollution levels are likely to be like in like particular places or whatever, so she doesn't go to those places at those times. Also, I imagine there's quite a lot to do with like museum sciences and with like the stuff that she finds. She's got to make sure that she's doing what she needs to preserve those things and not sort of just put them on the windowsill to fade. You know, there's a bit of like museum science involved as well, like curator type thing. So I'm gonna say that that is a science related book. Like, so number 4 is social studies. This is a book from your TBR that is translated or deals with government. Whoa, I got loads of these. Absolutely loads. Okay, so I studied politics at university because I find it fascinating. I love, it's not just the politics of my country, America, or the country that I live in, the UK, but just like countries all over the world. I'm politics obsessed and government obsessed and like civics obsessed. I just love it. So I've got loads of these books on my TBR that I want to read that are related to this. I think the one sort of like coming up that I most want, like I've got one on hold at the library. One is called Rodham by Curtis Sittenfeld, and one is called These Truths by Jill Lepore or something like that. So the Rodham one is like a sort of alternate universe biography of Hillary Clinton. It's like if she had never married Bill Clinton and like what she would be like otherwise. And I love that idea because she had to sort of take second fiddle, didn't she? Despite being brilliant and ambitious, she had to sort of become this like, you know, suitable, lovely, low, quiet housewife so that she could be the first lady of Arkansas with Bill Clinton, you know? And like, how did it set her back, and how did it affect her life, and what would the world be like if she hadn't done that. Anyway, the other one is These Truths by Jill Lepore. And I don't know, I can't remember like a huge amount about this one, but it's sort of like a history of politics in America, but it's sort of based on this quotation, we hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal. And sort of looking back at the history of America and being like, has that actually been true? What things have been done to sort of move toward that or against that or blah blah. Like obviously we're having this whole thing now with Black Lives Matter where it's obvious that hasn't been true in America, that all people in America are not created equal. So I'm hoping that it will have like a sort of focus on that throughout history or whatever, but I've heard good things about it, so I'm pretty excited. Okay, so number 5 is for exploratories or like electives or like extracurriculars or sort of things like this. It says, which category of extra non-core classes did you take most in school? Embarrassingly, I'm gonna have to say band. I was really big into band. I played the flute. Thank you. It was very cool. I was very sexy as a flautist in my band uniform. I actually lettered in band. Not everyone knows that you can letter in band, but you can. Anyone who's not from America who doesn't know, like in Greece, when they've got their letter sweaters, it's like their official school sweaters with like the big letter of the school on it. That still exists. Usually not as sweaters anymore, but as jackets. I had a letter jacket because I had lettered in band. And like when you letter, you put a pin on the letter, you like stick it in to sort of show what it is that you've lettered in. And then if you letter more than once, you just stick more pins in, it's not more letters. So I lettered in band, theater, and academics. Like they were originally meant to letter in sports, you're supposed to be really good at basketball or football or something and letter in that sport, but no, I didn't letter in those. I lettered in band. Okay, number 6 is Common Core. This is share a good pairing of fiction and nonfiction. I'm just in love with this idea now. This is like a whole new world for me that I've decided. I just feel like every book I read from now on should be paired with a fiction or nonfiction partner, and I should read them together. Like every book I read should have a partner. Because I remember last Christmas I went to Hawaii with my family, and I was sort of reading Hawaii-based books. Like I like to sort of read books that take place in those places when I go to them, just to sort of like, get a feel for like the place or whatever. Like I'm a nerd. And I was reading Hawaii books in Hawaii. And I read one non-fiction book, first of all, called Unfamiliar Fishes by, what's her name? Let me see. Sarah Vowell. And it was quite funny, but it was factual, about Hawaii, sort of the history of the Hawaiian monarchy, sort of how the royal families sort of came to prominence, and then how they were overthrown by the US, and then the United States sort of forced them to be a state. It was sort of that kind of history and everything going through. And then directly after finishing that one, I read a fiction book called The Descendants. That one was by Cowie Hart Hemmings, or Cowie Hart Hemmings, I don't know. And they made that into a movie that has George Clooney in it. It's a really good movie, but the book is so good as well. It was really good. And it's based on this idea, this fictional idea, that it's a guy living on Hawaii who's a millionaire, and he's a descendant of the last sort of royal princess of Hawaii and also an American businessman. So she, married one of these like invading people into Hawaii, and had a kid, and then he's like the descendant from that. So he's inherited all this Hawaiian land, and also he's a millionaire. And sort of he's come to this point where the family has sort of mismanaged the property and everything, and now they have to sell it. But he knows that if they sell it, they're going to have to sell it to developers, and then it's going to take all of this gorgeous Hawaiian land that is their inheritance and their right, and turn it into just like vacation homes and terrible things. So he's got to sort of go with that. And reading the one that sort of set the base factually for the next one as fiction was just the best. It was the best. Like, everyone should read those two together. It was really good. Oh god. I love 4th of July. Like, even in Britain when it's like really raining outside, we still went to the beach. I'm still eating pasta salad. I just love this holiday. Number 7 is research. So it's like the last book that sort of sent you into a deep dive of like reading loads of books about a certain thing, sort of like always looking for information about this new thing. And about 10 years ago or so, or like maybe more than 10 years ago, I think I was still in university, I read this book called Mother Tongue by Bill Bryson, and it was so interesting. It was basically about how English got to be the way that English is, you know? Sort of different words and stuff, and how they came to be that, or sayings, and sort of like history of various literature type things or whatever. I found that so interesting, and it's launched me into a decade of being ridiculously interested in languages. Like, I also read another of Bill Bryson's ones that was called Made in America, I think, which was sort of how American English came to be the way it is, you know, like specifically the American dialect. I've got loads of other ones now. Like, I'm currently in the middle of this one, which is about 20 languages in the world, sort of like 20 main ones. Read this one, Empires of the Word, Language History of the World. My husband got me this one, Speaking American, How Y'all Use and You Guys Talk, a visual guide. Like, it's sort of like different places in America and sort of their different dialects based on different words. And then I tried to find all of these language books I've read in my house, and I can't find any of them. I think some of them are from the library. Some of them I've given away. My husband, I know, has stolen a couple. I don't know where he's put them. I had this really interesting atlas, like a map of all these parts of the world and how language had traveled across these places over time. So there was like this one map of how like the Celtic languages traveled from sort of like Central Europe into like the fringes of like Britain and everything, and then how it sort of traveled back into France and such. Like, it's so interesting. I love just looking at that book, but I don't know where it has gone. I think my husband has stolen it. Anyway, so getting to the end. Sorry, it's taking longer than I thought. Number 8 is, what subject area would you teach if you were a teacher? And I did actually want to be a teacher when I was a kid. Like, that was my thing. I wanted to be a teacher. I wanted to be a teacher, but it didn't really work out. I don't really know why. But anyway, I think that the subject that I would want to teach would be like government / civics / sort of politics, like that. Where you sort of teach about, you know, the history of government and like history of politics, and also sort of like why it is that it's so important to vote, and sort of just things like that, and sort of like working to engage like teenagers and sort of young people in the political process, you know, and in democracy, and like why it's so important. I think that would be the thing that I would teach, and I would have a lot of fun. I don't know why I didn't go down that route. Anyway, whatever. What's done is done. Okay, so the last one is number 9. Share a photo of your school days. And I don't have this one actually on paper, but I'm going to put it up. This is a photo of me when I was 14 in the band, and this photo was used on the promotional literature for my school, because it was a private school, so they're always sort of like hoping to get more people in. Like, it wasn't like a public school where just you went there because your house was nearby. Like, you had to actually get people that would like to decide to come in, you know, and like pay the tuition and everything. So I was in the brochure for several years, looking my very best at 14 with me and all the band nerds. Right. Okay, so this has been a blast and a half, but I've got to stop eating this, and I've got to go pick up my pizzas now. So I will continue trying to get through the summer school readathon. If you're also doing the readathon, let me know so I can like look at your TBR and everything. If you're going to do this tag, let me know so I can watch. If you have any thoughts about any of the books that I said, or like any books that you think that I might like, please let me know. I love, love, love book recommendations. Okay. Thank you. See you next time. Goodbye.